Hello, welcome to another day, another Thursday. Very excited to have you here. I love Thursdays. Thursdays are my favorite day of the week. I know I've said it before, but I think it's worth saying again. Why are Thursdays the favorite day of my week? Well, the simple answer is I still get to look forward to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, I really do enjoy what I do. So this isn't like I'm hesitant or like that I live for the weekends. And I want to pass this little bit of wisdom on to you briefly. But before I do that, today we're going to be talking about what is working capital? What does it mean for your business? Why is it important? What does it mean in the context of growing your business? And we're not going to talk about how to get more of it. We've already done that. We're not going to redo that. We're going to talk about what it is, how it affects your business, so on and so forth. If you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. I am thrilled that you are here, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. Your time is valuable. My time is valuable. So I appreciate that you've taken a few minutes to watch my videos. So what I was going to talk about in regards to working for the weekends. As entrepreneurs, one of the real struggles is that you, especially when you're beginning, you're doing everything and you're going to put in a lot of extra hours. I know it's kind of funny because, you know, most of us would rather work as an entrepreneur than work as a 9-to-5 employee for someone. And I see this a lot with a lot of my entrepreneurs, a lot of my small businesses, my startups and whatnot. But here's the thing. You shouldn't work every weekend. I know it's easier said than done because there's always something to do. But more importantly, and this is something to consider, that your health, your happiness, your well-being is equally as important as the well-being of your business. And it comes back to putting on your own mask. Okay. When you think about that, you're looking at, if you will, for a moment, consider a flight attendant. Okay, you're on a flight and they're giving you the safety instructions. And if you've been on any flight, anytime, they show you the mask dropping down from the ceiling and they say, what do they say? They show you how to put it on. But what they also do is they tell you to put on your mask first. Because you can't help anybody if you can't breathe. Now, I'm a parent, and it's very true. If you don't take time for yourself, whether it be to go for a walk, go for a run, get out of the office, no matter how much you love what you do for work, you're going to burn out. Even if it's just take a nap in the middle of the day, I'm giving you permission to step away from your business, okay, to have a better business. If you work all of the time and don't ever spend any time with people that you love or your dog, your cat, I don't care what it is, take that time to recharge, rejuvenate, enjoy time with others, enjoy time away from your business. Turn off the cell phone. Now, I am not pretending I'm perfect at this. I struggle with it too because there's always something else to do. And it seems like I'm never, ending battle. And if I put it off, then there's more to do tomorrow. And I get it. But you need to put on your mask first. You need to be able to breathe. You need to be able to function. You need to be able to be okay with what's happening in your life that doesn't involve being an entrepreneur. Because otherwise you're going to come to resent it. So don't just live for the weekends. Don't just think that you have to party on the weekends because you don't get to work or you don't get to enjoy your life the rest of the time. Learn to find ways to enjoy your life outside of your business outside of those things that are stressors. As an attorney, I have to be completely honest with you. It's a very stressful job. We bear your burdens as people. We bear your legal burdens, and we take it on ourselves to be your advocate. And there are days when that's just very difficult. That's the truth. And there are days when I celebrate wins and it's just the best feeling in the entire world. I'm elated that I get to help and do these things. But it's not always that. It's not always what you see on TV doesn't really happen. It doesn't exist. Okay? You see them all in court all the time and see these big crazy deals happening. It's not like that. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of hard work. But there's a lot of reward. I love when I get to solve a problem for my client and get them and help them to be happy, help them to have a better opportunity. And I think most entrepreneurs are that way. They're just different problems, right? So put on your own mask first before you try to put on someone else's masks. You can't help your potential clients or your potential customers if you're so fried you just want to throw your hands up in disgust and never want to talk or deal with it ever again, right? I mean, I hope you understand what I'm saying. So I've been rambling. If you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create that business of your dreams. And this is part of that, right? Because it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the feelings that you get and the opportunities that you have to help that you wouldn't otherwise get to have. So let's get started. All right. So, number one. I don't know why I like doing that, but I do. I like lists. I like numbers. They just make sense to me. I don't like, like the joke goes with algebra. When did they start putting letters in this thing? Anyway, so working capital is also known as net working capital. It's the difference between a company's current liabilities and their current assets. It's a fairly easy number to calculate based on your balance sheet. Okay. And let me just make this other plug for people. If you aren't keeping track of your numbers, you're doing yourself a pretty big disservice. I'm not looking for perfection here, but you need to hire a bookkeeper and or an accountant, because those numbers can make or break you. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But keep that in mind as we're discussing this, is that you need to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, then that can spell doom for you at a later point, because you won't make an educated decision as long as you don't know your numbers. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do everything or that you pay someone right away to do it. You're going to have to start off doing it yourself if you're just starting up. Or find someone who is able to do it for you at a reasonable price. They have a lot of outsourced companies out there that are able to do your books for you for a pretty reasonable amount. It doesn't have to be a drudgery to do it. But I highly recommend you doing that for that reason, because knowing your numbers will lead to better decision making in your business. If you don't know your numbers, then it can be very, very bad. Now, some people, not all, but some, get obsessed with their numbers to the detriment of everything else. And now that I disagree with. I think you have to know your numbers, you have to pay attention to them, and you have to give them the proper due. You're never going to have perfect numbers. There's always going to be something where you're going to struggle with, right? So, and that's okay. It is okay to struggle with numbers. But if you don't know what they are, you can never struggle with them. But at the same time, don't be paranoid, right? Work on them. Continue to work. Push forward. Move that needle forward. do the things that are going to help you move those numbers to forward. If you need a chief financial officer or a fractional chief financial officer, find one, hire one. You may not need a full-time one until you get bigger, but find someone that can run your numbers and help you make better decisions based on those numbers. Because typically, not always, but typically, numbers don't lie. Now, you can fudge numbers, but I would like to think that most of you would not do that, okay? So because working capital is your current assets minus your current liabilities, it's a measure of a company's liquidity, okay? And liquidity goes towards, what if you have a bad month, right? Where things are sketchy and aren't going well. Don't sign enough clients. You don't have enough new customers. You have debt that's coming due. That liquidity can spell a real problem. Now, it's also an indicator of operational efficiency. How efficient are you using your money? You ever thought of that? Like, it's not just about profit, because you can actually be profitable and insolvent all at the same time. If you invest too heavily, your profits into something and you can't meet your liabilities, then you could be insolvent. Okay. But operational efficiency, right? That's what this is indicating. That's what we're talking about here. Numbers wise, how efficient are you with what you have? Are you maximizing your debt in the respect of using that for operating capital, for working capital? Are you able to meet your demands? Are you able to meet payroll? Are you able to meet all of these different things that will help you build that business, right? One of the biggest problems I see with most small businesses and entrepreneurs, they don't start thinking like business owners. They think like employees that are now business owners. Okay, very different mindset. An employee has to be told what to do. They're not caring about the big picture. They're not caring about the numbers. They're caring about their job, what they have to get done in order to be successful. Entrepreneurs and business owners are thinking about how to get there, not the job itself, right? Direction, goals. And that's why operational efficiency is so important, because when you put operational efficiency into your thought process, your paradigm, you're no longer just thinking about that project at that moment, whatever it may be, right? Whether it's a new client, a new customer, these products that you're trying to get out. That's where your COO comes in. That's where he's supposed to handle that. Now, are you going to be your COO for a little bit? Yeah, I mean, that's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not suggesting that you're going to be able to hire all of these positions immediately with nothing, right? Unless you have the money, which is great. I applaud you. But most people start on a shoestring budget. And it takes them a while to accumulate the assets, the revenue generated, the things that are necessary to get to that point. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So you may be thinking, well, okay, so I've got my numbers. Now what? What does it mean? Okay. So an acceptable working capital ratio is one that's based upon or close to the average within your industry. A lot of those industries can be found out through, if anybody can think of another alternative, I'd love to see it in the comments, but you can find their 10K reports online. They have to file them as a publicly traded company. All publicly traded companies are required to file their 10Ks, their different reports that show that file their balance sheets, their profit and loss, their income statement, all of these different, because they have to be available for the public by law. Okay. So the reason why I say that is because if you're in a similar industry, maybe you're in a tinier spot, you can compare your assets, your working capital to someone else's as a ratio, as an average. And if you're too high, right, if you're too in debt and not enough current assets, then you may have a liquidity problem, right? You may have a solvency problem. You may end up where the creditors call your debt due. Okay. If you have too much working assets or current assets and not enough debt, then you could be not using those assets wisely, right? If you sit on a ton of cash that you're not using to expand or build, then you're not investing that wisely. Now, there's a formula that what's called the weighted average cost of capital, which factors in these, or the WACC, that factors in these things, the cost of those things. So your debt, your equity, all of these different things to give you what that cost is. And we're not going to talk about those right now, but in future episodes, we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about your cash flow. We're going to talk about your working average cost of capital, so that you can get a better handle on your numbers and be able to move your business forward and keep those costs reasonable. But again, part of this liquidity factor is there's liquidity and then there's absurdity. I just made that up. Absurdity is you have so much assets, but you don't have any debt, or which is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you use debt the way it's intended to expand your business and grow, then it's a wise use of debt. If you're not using debt just because you don't want to use debt, that's fine, but there's some missed opportunities there, especially since debt is less expensive than equity. Okay. But so you've got to pay attention to how you're using your debt, how you're using your assets, and make sure those numbers are consistent with industry averages, especially because you're not going to obviously have the same levels of debt and income, not debt. You're not going to have the same level of current assets and current liabilities as a multi-million-dollar company, unless you are one, which, okay, great, or as a publicly traded company. But if you look at the ratios of it, that's where you should be. So your average should be around their average, roughly, right? Everything's different. Your area may be different. You have to take those considerations into factor. So to be clear, a current liability is a debt that comes due within 12 months. Now, this is a rolling 12 months. This is not a fixed 12 months, okay? So that's why it's important to know that it's within 12 months, not within the year, because you could have something that's due within 1 month that's technically within that, or outside that 13. So it's a rolling period. Then current assets are like accounts receivable, are debts that are to be paid within a year, depending on your business and whatnot. So these are all the things that you're going to want to take a look at when you're talking about liquidity and you're talking about current net working capital, so that you can make the best decisions possible. That's what it's about. Numbers aren't for someone else. They're for you. As the business owner, you need to be aware of your numbers. So if you don't like dealing with them, then you need to hire somebody who does. Straight up. If you don't hire somebody who does, you're going to regret that. You won't be in business long. Business is challenging enough, but there's no point in making it more challenging by not knowing your numbers. Okay. So if you've gotten value out of this video, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and know we go live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. except for holidays. Have a good one. See you later.